Here we go, Endeavour, for part 2. Right, are you ready to go? You each need to take some fire with you. The fish eyes shine red in the light. Find slow-burning wood, something dense, or it'll burn down too quickly. They set off in single file through the dark trees, each carrying a burning branch. Back a road, still slightly damp inside Lila's shirt. The explorer moved without a single rustle. The rest stumbled behind him, stubbing their toes on unseen roots. A branch whipped in Fred's face and the leaves blackened in the flame of his torch, but the wood was too green to catch fire. "Don't burn down the jungle, please," said the explorer without turning round. Fred found to his surprise that the dark no longer seemed threatening. It made his skin tingle, but the pitch-black shadows under the trees no longer bit in his stomach in the same way. The change had been so slow he hadn't even felt it coming. "There are ant mounds everywhere here," said the explorer. "Nothing too bad. The only dangerous ants are bullet ants, but they don't want to disturb them if you can help it. I was attacked by a colony once when I was asleep. It looked like my whole body was covered in warts." "Oh," said Lila. "Wow." "Quite. Not good for the morale." They went in a new direction, northwest down a steep incline. Every time their branches burned down to their hands, they pulled new ones from the trees and lit them twice. Fred lost his footing and slid until he came up against a tree. Max tripped and ate a mouthful of mud, and they had to pause until his screaming died down enough for him to walk on. Lila tried to comfort him. The explorer turned away and studied a dung beetle with angry intensity. The lake, when they came to it, was larger than Fred expected. The trees that grew around it had spread their roots under the water. The explorer took off his shoes and waded in knee-deep. "Come on, then, quickly," he said. "What are you waiting for?" Fred followed him into the water, feeling it soak through his shorts and praying that there was nothing in it with teeth. The lake was pure black except where the burning torch cast a yellow light down through the water to the mud and stones of the lake bed. In the glow of the flames, pairs of red lights flitted and flashed under the surface of the water. Max laughed, delighted. "The bigger the eyes," said the explorer, "the bigger the fish. Move slowly towards them, hold your torch close to the surface. You lower your spear as slowly as you can into the water, and then at the last moment you jab! Jab fast! Don't jab your feet. Now split up." Lila and Con exchanged sceptical glances. They moved off across the lake, but they didn't split up. Their breath was audible. It was hard to tell in the dark, but Fred thought they might have been holding hands. Max reached out and took Fred's hand. His palm was warm and sticky. "Let's fish," Max said. Fred fumbled, trying to arrange his spear properly while keeping the flame away from his face. "If I give you the torch to hold," he said to Max, "will you try not to burn my hair off with it?" Max took the burning branch. "Maybe," he said. The spearing was harder than Fred had expected. The spear was thin and supple in his hand, but every time he brought it down over a fish, the fish had gone. A swarm of mosquitoes passed over them, and Max sneezed and waved his burning branch over emphatically. "Max, I think I'd better take the branch." "No!" cried Max. "No, it's mine. I'll be careful." A spear flew suddenly past them, inches from Fred's chest, and landed in the mud of the lake, its tip vibrating out of the water. Fred jumped. Max gave a yell and rocked backwards and grabbed Fred's knees. The two of them toppled backwards in the shadows. The branch extinguished. Fred sat up, spitting water, and looked around for Max. The explorer strode past, picked Max up with one hand and flipped him upright and set him down on his feet. "Are you all right?" Fred asked Max. "I'm wet," he wailed. "No, I don't want to be wet." "But otherwise?" Max's face rippled as he debated whether or not to cry. He then hesitated. "My underpants are soggy, but I'm all right." The explorer picked the spear out of the mud from where he'd thrown it. "Good boy," he said to Max. On the end of the spear was a fish as big as the man's thigh. "Breakfast," said the explorer. "Come here, Fred, and learn how it works. Max, stay on the shore and guard the fish. Here, I'll give you a torch." The explorer strode through the water to the nearest tree and pulled down a branch, lit it with his own and handed it to Max. "Beautiful, no?" "Should Max be left with fire?" asked Fred. "He tends to eat things." The explorer turned to Max. "Boy, do not eat the fire, or any other part of the world surrounding you. Do you understand?" "Yes," said Max. He was sniffing the fish. "You see, he understands," said the explorer. "Come on." Fred wrung the water out of his shirt and waded into the lake to stand near the explorer. The man seemed to be in a good mood. Fred risked a question. "When you go out into the trees—" "Yes." The explorer waded further in, and the water lapped up to his thighs. Fred followed. The black water closed over his waist. What are you doing there? You're gone all day, but you don't come back with food. Are you hunting? For a long time the explorer didn't answer. Instead he stared down into the lake. He was so still that Fred was sure if he was breathing. There, see? And he pointed down at the murky water and the submerged roots. Fred could see nothing on the floating leaves and the moon. The explorer's arm moved so fast that Fred didn't see it stop or start, but suddenly there was a long thin fish flapping on the end of the spear. Acestrocinaceous, he said. Needle jaw. Tastes like a pike. Lots of bones, but delicious. He took a length of twine from his pocket. It had a thin flint, sharp as a needle, tied to the end. He threaded the fish onto the twine. You ask what I'm doing during the days? I'm fixing the thing I broke. And then he pivoted on his heel and swept the subject away with a gesture. Look, see how I grip it? Get the spear less than a thumb's height above the fish before you stab down. Fred stood hunched over the water. Red eyes glinted in the dark. He stabbed many rocks, some leaves and his own ankle, and then astonishingly he felt the tip hit a fish. The first stab hit only the tail fin, but the fish was slowed and Fred stabbed it again, frantically until he felt the flint meet flesh. I think I caught something. He held his spear up to the light and on the other end something wriggled. It wasn't large, but it was indisputably a fish. Wolffish, they call it Tirana in these parts. Put it in your pocket, said the explorer. Fred checked to see if he was serious, but he didn't seem to be in a particular jocular mood, so Fred put the fish in his pocket of his shorts. Its eyes stared up at him like a gym mistress. He waited for a moment, rinsing the fish blood off his hands before he dared to try again. What are you fixing? The explorer waded deeper into the lake up to his waist. He seemed to find it easier to speak here in the dark. I was on a reconnaissance mission. I was flying looking for any sign of life below. I was circling the city trying to work out whether there was anything to see, and my wretched engine failed. I crashed through the canopy and there was fire, and it killed a lot of the foliage. What happened to the plane? Could you salvage it? The man's eyes flicked down to the water and he stirred his spear in the weeds. Fred tried again. Is that what made the hole in the trees? In the canopy, yes, but the canopy was there for a reason. Whoever built this city had planted trees so that their leaves interlock and you can't see the city from above. You could stand on the mountain top and look down and all you would see is interrupted green. How long ago was it made? I don't know. With a city so intertwined with a jungle around it, it's hard to be certain about a date. 100 years, probably 700 more. It'll take at least 50 to 100 years for those trees to grow again. I've cut down the burnt trees where I can and tried to replant in the same place. I saw there were new